Hello and welcome. A little bit of Starfield news to share. Now, this Starfield news does contain spoilers, but in the beginning of this video, I'm going to keep it spoiler free, and then we're going to escalate from there. I'm going to do a short intermission as we escalate the amount of spoilers I'm going to release, and that's going to give you a little bit of an off-ramp to kind of click out of the video. But let's just start by covering what occurred. So there is a new list of achievements that was added to the Steam database. I believe on Friday this was initially reported as a leak. I don't believe that to be the case. I believe that to essentially be the groundwork for Shattered Space being done. They're adding new achievements to the Steam database. That way they're there. So I don't really think this was a leak. I think it was just a matter of people adding stuff to the database and clever people online going ahead and looking through the database and finding the achievements. So a little bit more about achievements. This is going to pertain to just about everyone. I'm assuming you are probably playing with mods at this point in time, and this is kind of just my personal opinion, but when Shattered Space does come out, I will be reverting back to the save I had just prior to installing mods, so I can basically play through Shattered Space once at least as a vanilla experience. And why am I doing this? Well, it's kind of two reasons. The first reason, I think you should at least take a bite of the steak before you put ketchup on it. So that's just kind of my philosophy with these games. I think you should play it at least once before you start modding it out. But you can do you. If you don't feel that way, by all means, go ahead, play it at mod out. Second reason I'm going to have is that there are going to be new weapons, new items, new mechanics added to the game. The likelihood that when this game launches, your mods are going to be working okay is going to be very low. And just being real, majority of the modders are fans of this game. They're going to want to play it as well. They're not going to want to sit there and pause what they're doing and stop from enjoying Shattered Space to go fix mods immediately. So I am not going to be putting like pressure on modders or anything like that. Like, hey, I need this fixed, I need it working. No, I'm going to sit there and enjoy the vanilla experience. And then the second go around, that's when I'm going to be looking what mods I do want to implement. It will give modders sufficient time to work out a lot of the bugs they may be experiencing because of like a lot of the new mechanics, weapons, etc. being added to the game, probably messing around with what they already have. So, you know, after I play through the game at least one time, I'm sure the majority of the mods will have patches implemented so that they'll be functional again. And at that point, I am going to be re-evaluating what mods I'm going to be running in my game. Mainly because we're adding new mechanics to the game. So mods that I might have been using right now might no longer make sense. So I'll reevaluate, and then the second playthrough, that is when I'm going to go ahead and turn on mods. So the game plan for that is on launch week, I will probably live stream nightly the first and second run of this. But right up here, we're going to be taking a quick intermission, and you know, once this eclipse is past, we're going to be talking a little bit about the achievements that actually did leak. So coming up in this section up ahead, we are going to be going over achievements that are not directly tied to the main quest itself. They're not tied to any quests or any storyline whatsoever. So I'm going to be saving those achievements for the last section. So I will consider this like a light spoiler because it will allude to new enemies, new locations, and also new weapons and equipment. So that's basically what we're going to be talking about in this next section. If you feel that's too much of a spoiler, you need to get out of here in about 3, 2, 1, and we're going to start talking about it. Okay, let's talk about these. We have four achievements that are not directly quest related. So the first one we could talk about is Facing Your Fears. Defeat 25 Vortex Horrors. So this is a new creature, and I think we already saw it. I think those were like the see-through spiders we were seeing in the trailer, and it's just a an achievement for defeating 25 of them. From what I'm understanding from people that were at Gamescom, there's more variants than the spider alone. But let's move on to the next one. Redemption Arc. Defeat 10 Redeemed. So I think this is definitely a new enemy, and I think these are the humanoid figures that are kind of like all glowy and see-through. I think these are the redeemed, and I think this is also related to those pods where we see those bodies. I think what's going on here is their bodies are being stored like cryogenically, but their ghost is somehow able to wander Varun Kai, and I think that's what we're being referred to with Redeemed. And I suspect it's probably going to be rather difficult fighting them, just because I suspect they'll be immune to significant different types of damage. So that is going to be definitely very interesting. The next one I want to talk about is the achievement 5 of a Kind, and it's craft one of each type of vortex grenade. So my understanding, the vortexes are like wormholes to a different dimension, and this has been kind of explained by some of the people at Gamescom, that there's going to be like a wormhole that takes you to Varun Kai. I theorized about this months ago on some of my Varun playthroughs, that there was going to be some kind of sci-fi mechanic that was going to take us to Varun Kai like a wormhole. Guess what? They went with the wormhole. So my understanding of the vortex grenades is they are going to be like wormhole grenades, where you'll be able to like tap into like another extra dimension to get some kind of crazy effect. So that's going to be interesting, and creativity wise they could go a lot of different ways with this, so I don't really have too much speculation on that. And then the last thing I want to talk about, and I think this is probably the most important achievement on the whole entire list, is the Great Unknown. Discover 50 locations on Varun Kai. So we know that at a very minimum we're getting 50 unique points of interest. Now, you might see them repeat with procedural generation, and from what I understand, there is procedural generation, but it does take you a bit of exploring to even get to the procedural generation. I would not ever expect them to not have procedural generation, and this is basically because I understand the size of these planets. They're rather large. Like, if you took everything in the base game, you could fit it all on Jemison if you wanted to, and have room to spare. The planets are very large. That's just what I gotta say. So my understanding is it's going to be a lot of handcrafted stuff in the path of the the main quest. But if you venture far enough away from the main quest, you will start seeing procedural generation at some point or another, which I think is perfectly acceptable, and I think it's a nice balance between getting us the vastness of space, but also having that handcrafted feel, and that's going to be having very large and expansive areas where the main quest takes place. And then for the people that do feel like being a bit of a wanderer, you'll have to deal with a little bit of procedural generation after you venture far enough away from the main quest area. So I just want to set the expectation that we are going to be getting a lot of handcrafted things, but expecting, the whole entire planet of Varun Kai in itself to never, use any kind of procedurally generated points of interest and slide them into the landscape. I think that's just a little bit too high of an expectation. I think you should probably be focused on, is the main quest, is it going to be handcrafted? Is it going to have a fair amount of handcrafted exploration in that main quest? And is it not going to feel like thin? If I walk like 100 yards away from the main quest area, am I going to start seeing procedural generation right away? How long does it take before I start seeing those procedurally generated points of interest being inserted into the landscape? So I think that's probably where we want to set everything at with procedural generation. And as far as like handcrafted, they have to do a little bit of a balancing act, just because of the sheer size of these planets themselves. It would be unreasonable to densely populate a whole entire planet with nothing but handcrafted items. But it would be very reasonable for them to have the main quest area to be densely packed with handcrafted items to the point where you would have to deliberately go out of your way to find the procedural generation. And I think that's where we're going to be at with Shattered Space. So the next group of achievements we're going to be talking about, these are achievements for completing a specific quest. The achievements themselves, that, like, if I read them out to you, they contain the quest title. So this is very heavy spoiler, but there is a lot of stuff that we can speculate on here. So I'm giving you a pretty good amount of time here to go ahead and amscray out of the video if you don't want that stuff spoiled for you. But like, coming up, we're going to be going through all these achievements and doing our best to speculate what they mean. We're basically going to be getting the quest titles practically in order for us, so we're going to be able to go through this and get a pretty detailed bit of information about the storyline. But you need to amscray out, because we're going to start in 3, 2, 1. Okay, the first quest we're going to be talking about, or achievement I should say, is going to be completing the quest entitled What Remains. So I have a very strong inclination. Tim Lamb was very specific that you're going to be at a specific point in the main quest to start Shattered Space. And I suspect it's going to be after you get all the artifacts. I think you're going to use the armory to open up the wormhole and travel to Varun Kai, and they're going to be using some kind of sci-fi mechanism. So I suspect this quest, What Remains, will be the quest to gather up what remains of the artifacts in the settled systems to get the armory and then use that to travel into the wormhole. I think this would be like a perfect spot in the main quest to do a side shoot to Varun Kai and do Shattered Space. And it would not make too many players mad. I think if they required you jump through the Unity, that would probably piss off a lot of different fans by making you do that. So this is going to be, it's purely speculation. I could be 100% wrong on that, but I think that's probably what this quest is going to be pertaining to. My other thought is What Remains is going to be the title of the quest to go to the star station that we see derelict in the trailers. It could very well be a reference to that as well. Both are possibilities in my opinion, but I'm going to go with the latter. I think this is probably a quest to wrap up things in the main storyline and get you to the point to start Shattered Space. So the next achievement we're going to be looking at here is the Promised, comma, Broken. So this is probably us venturing to Varun Kai and seeing what has happened to the House Varun, and we're probably going to be learning more about the theological schism that has occurred between the Varun, and then we have also the Varun Zealots. We can see this from the Varun embassy. The priestess Sia visits the Varun embassy. She eventually storms out because of a comment that a UC officer said to her. Everyone withdraws from the embassy, and then we see Ambassador Balmore stays behind, hoping that one day the Varun do come to their senses. But on a deeper sense, the Serpent's Crusade ends with Jian Varuk dying and his brother Jarek Varun taking over for him and suing for peace immediately. I think what we're going to figure out is Jian Varun, there may have been some fishiness with his death, and Jarek might have succeeded him, but he might no longer be the person in charge of the Varun. So I think we're probably going to see a lot of political infighting, whether there's going to be two houses or more than two houses, yet to know, but just judging from Tim Lamb's language, he mentioned minor houses. I think he probably would have called it factions if it was just two. So I think there's probably going to be multiple minor houses in play, maybe 3 or 4. I like the number 3 a lot. I just think from past titles with like Morrowind, they did 3 houses, and that worked out pretty well from a storytelling perspective. So we might see something where we see a house of reformers, a house of moderate Varun, and then a house of like orthodox Varun that want to go back to the old ways under Jian Varun. But let's go ahead and go to the next quest, which is going to be Zealous Overreach. I have no clue. It's probably going to be us meeting one of the houses. My guess would probably be the more orthodox house that wants to follow the old ways under Jian Varun. After that, the next achievement is going to be Conflict in Conviction. So this will probably be us meeting another house at that point in time. And seeing the confliction between the houses there and what their true nature of their grievance is, exhuming the past. That is very speculative, but I'm probably going to theorize that that is probably going to be relating to Jian Varun's death. I have a feeling that he didn't die of natural causes. And that's basically where Bethesda's trying to take this story. The other side is going to be the one after that, and that is probably probably related to exhuming the past and hearing all the different sides of what may have occurred at the end of the Serpent's Crusade. I'm sure there was quite a power vacuum after that, even if he did die from natural causes. So I suspect a lot of the storyline is going to be related, at least the past portions of the storyline will be related to right after the Serpent's Crusade or towards the end of the Serpent's Crusade. The next one is going to be the Scaled Citadel. That's going to be the last one too. The Scaled Citadel, I understand that to be a building for like the central power within House Varun. So I'm thinking, one, this quest probably has multiple endings, so we'll either be going there to do battle, or we potentially could be returning back there as the triumphant victorious. Both, I would highly suspect, are possible. So very well we could be leading a rebellion against whoever is in charge, or quite the opposite. We could be trying to maintain the power of whoever is in charge at that point in time. So we'll have to see and figure out, And I am just going to say, to kind of close up this video, what from this achievement list has me really excited. It's going to be the new points of interest. I think the 50 new points of interest is going to be something that is going to draw a lot of players back to the game, and probably also draw a lot of new players. So we're going to be basically going through this quest, which is going to contain a ton of handcrafted content. I think I've disclaimed kind of enough on that, so don't expect a whole entire planet of handcrafted content, but as far as like the main quest goes and how that is going to work, it's going to be a lot of handcrafted content. There'll be plenty of exploration around the main quest area with tons of stuff tucked away, as well as like side quests and other miscellaneous stuff. Other things that I am going to be looking forward to is the new enemies. Just looking at what we have like the creature that's like a void form almost, you can see through it, and then also the humanoid with like kind of like the void form thing as well. From a sci-fi perspective, there's a lot of different ways they could go about with this, so that could make combat interesting. So things like making it immune to like physical damage, where we might need to use specialized weapons to take those creatures out, could potentially make it a lot of fun. The vortex grenades, that's another interesting aspect. I have no clue how those are going to play out. I've heard speculation that they manipulate gravity, speculation that you can tear into other dimensions with them, but this is kind of all speculation. I think the one thing that we could probably narrow down with the vortex grenades is they're going to be very unique in how they function and work, and also it's bringing explosive crafting to Starfield, which is something that was missing from the beginning. Never really got it. As far as the quest lines go, that aspect of it, I am extremely excited for that. I think they have the potential to do something like in Skyrim, where we had what was it, the Imperials and the Stormcloaks. We potentially could do that. I would like to see a three-way if possible. But, you know, if it's just two factions, I'm perfectly happy with that. I think Bethesda has done that narrative pretty well in the past. But I would like to see probably, you know, more than two factions, 3, maybe 4 factions, kind of competing with each other with all different perspectives. I think they really do well when they focus on like a lot of the details of the story and make them complicated. I think that kind of adds to the immersion factor, because it causes the players ultimately to have to pay attention more to the story. So if they make the story more complex, I think it does them favors by causing players to have to pay attention more, focus more on finding like things like data slates to learn more. Like keeping the player kind of confused a little bit is like a good thing from storytelling. So I'm looking forward to that. I did see some titles that definitely imply we are going to be going back and investigating past events, and I'm expecting that's going to be by Jean Varun's death and the power struggle that ensued afterwards. I think that's what we're going to be investigating, but we're about to wrap this up here. If you appreciate this video, found it entertaining or informative, give me a like and subscribe, and like always, I appreciate them and enjoy your night.